Welcome to Stay a While, the podcast that's virtual soul food for your ears. I am your host, Tommi Vincent, and each week we break bread with bold, passionate women who have faced the impossible and are still standing to share their testimonies. Make yourself at home and stay a while. Hi, everyone. It is Tommi Vincent here, your host of Stay a While podcast. And today, joining us at the table, we have Constance Schwartz-Morini, and we are so delighted to have her here today. She is the CEO and co-founder at SMAC Entertainment, and you all are in for a treat. We are going to have an amazing conversation, and you'll have an opportunity to glean from some tremendous bought sense because, listen, she has paid the price. So, Constance, before we get into the meat of our conversation, I have one simple question for you. Who is Constance?
Oh boy, that's not a simple answer. My nickname is Pitbull and Pumps. And that came from Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, who's dear friends with you and your husband, but also known as Boss Mom. I am a step mom, and I hate the word step, so that's where they came up with both Boss Mom and Bonus Mom. And honestly, at the end of the day, I am on my road to figure out how to find my peace. So it's a whole blend of things, but my favorite, just who am I, is daughter to my boss mom, who's Pizza Cockinos Schwartz, who will be 99 in January and is just my North Star. And really, I'm so just happy that she's alive and healthy to just be a part of all the great things that have been going on, both personally and professionally. So it's a mishmash. I say I'm a Greek Jew who married an Italian. My mom's this Greek Southern belle from the South who married Morty Schwartz from the Bronx. And with that last name Schwartz, I went to Catholic high school. So you can throw me into any situation and I will adapt. So all of that is probably like the potpourri or the minestrone soup of who I've become today.
So I love the food reference.
Sorry, Biggie's sitting on my lap during this interview, so.
Yeah, I love that food reference, but you said something that really stood out to me in your who you are and that you are on this road to find your peace. And usually when we end up in that place, life has presented itself in a way where now we put our stake in the ground that this is what's most important to me. How did you get to that place where this is where you are now? I need to find my peace.
For so long, I was living for other people, whether it's my clients, whether it's the business, whether it's the family. And I lost a little bit of myself in that. But through that, I found myself. And most people that know me know I have a little bit of a potty mouth, but I won't use it today. But I call where I'm at the Eff-It 50s. Once you start really just understanding that phrase, youth is wasted on the young, you're like, wait a minute, I get it now. My body is definitely 55, but my mind, heart, and spirit are still 25. Again, I wish I knew so much now, then what I know now, but we all have to go through it. And so it's at this back nine, as they say, that I'm very comfortable in my skin. I'm comfortable in who I am. I don't know if you followed Pam Anderson's journey. I saw her doc, I think it was a year or two ago, and she's been going without makeup. And it's like, wow, like for this beauty, like pinup girl from the 80s and 90s, to just be so comfortable in her skin now. Brooke Shields' doc, like there's so many women that are in my age demo that are just, I think, doing the same thing, which is being comfortable with who they are. That's just what I'm doing right now. Everybody knows I love working. I don't look at it as work because I've built this, from my kitchen table with Michael Strahan and with so many other people, that I do love it. But I'm also in that place where we're only taking on projects or clients that we want to be around. I'm only going to events or parties that I really want to go to. I've paid my dues, and that's where that comes from, is I'm trying to find my peace.
Mm-hmm. So you called it the Eff-It 50s.
Hmm.
I just turned 50 in August. So
Happy belated birthday.
thank you. Thank you. But I went through a season, and I'll give it a name since you gave it that name, of the Find Me 40s.
I love
And I
that.
really spent a great deal of time really, identifying who I was as a person. And I remember very distinctly when I was going through my bout of depression, I thought that the lights were going out. And what I realized is that God was turning the light on so I could
Mm.
finally see myself. And so now that I've entered into this new decade of life, there's such a sense of focus. And to your point, you really want to do things that serve you well, that feel good to you, and you have enough life experience to know that all that stuff that we chased before, or those experiences we thought we had to be a part of, that in the scheme of things, they really add no value to your life. And so being intentional about how we're moving and living is part of the blueprint that I really want to be able to pass along to other young women,
Hmm.
because no one told me this.
No.
It was a lesson that I had to learn on my own, and it was acquired through a lot of bought sense that was really hard and challenging. So I appreciate you sharing that, because I believe that's the value that we can add to the generations coming behind us. Now, you talked about this moment at the kitchen table when you and Michael Strahan said, "Hey, we're going to do SMAC." Take us back to that moment, and when, I don't know if you were young and like just like we can conquer the world, or if there was a lot of thought that went into forming the company. So take us back to that moment.
There's a poster, or, like a meme or something, and I don't know the exact wording, but it's of an iceberg. And, so the triangle and the water's right here.
Mm-hmm.
And they talk about how success people think is just this iceberg sitting on top of the water. But when you're an entrepreneur, the success is below the water, because it takes thousands, if not millions of years for these icebergs and glaciers to form. And that's anybody's company or anybody's dream, your podcast. Like, it doesn't happen overnight. And I was told for many years, you should be out on your own, like you're an entrepreneur. And I didn't know what that was. Being in my 50s, in your 20s, working at a big company, no one talked about entrepreneurs over 30 years ago. There was a few of them, right? I mean, we know who those billionaires are today, but now I understand I had that entrepreneurial spirit in me. I just didn't have the self-confidence to go out on my own. What
Mm-hmm.
started my journey to create, the first iteration of SMAC was I got fired. And being the teacher's pet my whole life, being, the one that always wanted the bosses to like me and do the hardest work, not because I wanted people to like me, but just because I wanted to earn respect, or I wanted to just always keep moving upward and onward. So when I got fired, it was like, what the hell just happened? And like
Mm-hmm.
you, it was like, is there going to be light at the end of this tunnel? And it was really, really tough, because I loved what I had done. But I had been working in a company where I was managing Snoop. And when Snoop and I parted ways as his manager, I had Michael, who wasn't Michael. He was recently retired, Michael, and just started working with Deion, who same thing. They weren't who they are today. And so the company was like, you're great, but at the end of the year, like, can't afford, basically your numbers aren't working out. So once that awakening sort of happened, I started interviewing at other companies, and they were very one dimensional. It was, you're either going to do this in sponsorship, this in sports marketing, this in reality TV, like, just basically choosing bits and pieces of the first 20 years of my career. I said, you guys don't get it. Like, I am the future. I know in my gut and in my heart that I'm going to take the amazing, MBA of what I learned my first decade at the NFL, then the next decade working at the management company, the firm, managing Snoop Dogg, and I'm going to put all this under one roof. And that was how we really started the business. So I took a chance. I took all my savings, and we created, the first iteration of SMAC was a different name of a company, but it was the same just, I know we're onto something bigger and better. And here we are 14 years later, which I can't believe when people ask me how long we've been around, that it's been like that. But I would say it was really in the last decade that we found our stride and really our identity, and most important, the culture of this company. And we've made sure that comes first and foremost, not just with the clients, but everybody that works here. It's truly a team, a family. Obviously, I didn't play professional sports, but just growing up around it, teamwork is so important. And we're not just a sports company. We have music and we have brands and all the things, but everybody comes into it with just the same heart, which is, we lift as we climb, and we're going to build this together.
A lot of times as we're moving, people see us before we see ourselves. And so you had people saying, you should be doing your own thing. You're an entrepreneur. And at some point in time, that clicked for you and you started to believe that about yourself. What would you say is that factor inside of you that has allowed for you to be the success that you are today? What is that characteristic?
I was always in the shadow of something. So Yonkers was in the shadow of Scarsdale. SUNY Oswego was in the shadow of Syracuse. I was an assistant at the NFL, so I was in the shadow, of everybody. And as a woman, both in sports and hip hop, it wasn't the norm. And so that is the driver. That's my superpower, which is I am just as good as my counterparts. But what really keeps me going at this point in my life is I don't want to be on these lists where I'm the most powerful woman in this, I'm the most successful woman in that. Why can't I just be the best at my position? It doesn't matter my gender or my race. Like that for me is what drives me, is similar to why you're doing this podcast, is so the women that are coming behind us don't face the same challenges or struggles or doors being closed or no room at the table. That's what keeps me going. Like nothing makes me crazier than when people complain, but they don't want to be a part of the change. And that's how I'm modeling my life right now, is I need to be a part of the change. I can't just complain about it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't tell me no. Like that's
listen.
Everyone tells me, even now, you're never going to sell that show. You're never going to get your Wear by Erin Andrews line in this retailer. Watch me.
So look, I have this on my list of questions for you because you have I believe, a celebrated reputation in your work that you don't take no for an answer. And that is a posture that takes confidence. And it also takes a perspective that everyone doesn't have. Some people will get the no and they'll say, okay, I'll go back and, figure some things out. How did you get to that place where no is not an option? We going to make this happen one way or another.
It probably goes back to raised by a single mom. It was the way she did it. It was like, okay, I might be the only parent, but you're never going to feel like there's only one parent. My dad had mental illness, or diagnosed way before. I think everybody has mental illness now. It just seems like it's an excuse for people just settling for mediocrity. But we just never knew who was going to come home, to be honest. It was just sort of he had manic depression, bipolar disorder. So I just was never going to depend on anybody. So I'm not saying it's right, but when you are, probably 8 years old and you don't realize it, but you grow up really fast that you have to be independent. And there was a term in the 80s called latchkey kids, right? You had the house key around your neck and you'd get home from school because my mom was working and I learned how to make TV dinners at a young age. Or, my best friend's mom was my second mom. She was my neighbor. So it took, whether it's therapy or you work with your shaman or your spiritual advisor, to understand that the trauma as a child defines who you become as an adult, but don't let it weigh you down. For me, it was always I'm never going to be a victim. I'm going to take everything that's happened to me in my life, and there's a choice I can make. I can make the choice to just fall down and just cover up with the blanket over my head, or I can just say, not today. Not today. I'm going to use everything that's happened to me to just make me a stronger, better person.
Yeah, I say that life isn't happening to me, it's happening for me. And if you have if you have the right outlook, you can reframe every aspect of your life and you can utilize it as fuel for your rocket to launch you to wherever it is that you're looking to go. And so that's also a mindset, that we have to be willing to adapt and adopt ways of moving through life so that situations that are maybe impactful, maybe hard, may even present some trauma, we have to be able to not allow that moment to prosper beyond that moment. Now,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, when you become an adult and you have some things that are unaddressed, you may have to go a step further and get some therapy to work through those things. But when you can reshape and reframe life as it's happening to you, I believe you've really, in that moment, you dismantle it and it loses its power from being able to root in you and destroy the opportunities that are in front of us. And so I work really hard to maintain that posture because of my experience with depression and having to fight for my life. I'm not going to allow things to prevent me from becoming everything that I can be and having success in the areas that I desire to have success. And for you, not only is that something that you're tasked with for yourself, but you also have people that you manage and you're looking to bring them to this place of success in whatever that endeavor is. And they're bringing different things to the table, some of which you may not know, some things you never will know, but it causes impact on how they move in doing business. How do you manage people and what they bring to the table successfully so that it does not interfere with your ability to do your job?
That's a really deep question. It's funny. I don't give much thought to it because if I ever take a step sort of outside of my body and mind and say, wow, like these very successful people rely on us for advice and direction in managing their careers, but it's not just their careers because you're right. You end up all in.
Mm-hmm.
It's so instinctual for me. I would love to sit back and, tell you how I, have this MBA and this and this and this, but it's just life for me. It was just truly a higher power that I have great faith. I'm rooted in faith and I just really do trust what's put before me and never take for granted the role that I play in our clients' lives, both professionally and personally, because it's not, you don't just 5 o'clock, the phone's off. It's like, no, those calls come all hours of the day. When Deion was sick, which was literally 3 years ago, and I'm not speaking about anything that's not public, but when the blood clots, were brought to life, like I jumped on a plane within 3 hours. I was like, I know I have to get to Jackson and be there to help, the situation, not from a medical standpoint, but just to make sure we had the best doctors available to manage the situation. When Michael Strahan's daughter, Isabella, who thank God is healthy, but it was literally a year ago, this weekend was diagnosed with a brain tumor. It was like, okay, what do you need? Like, not just emotionally, but how do we use everything that we've done and all the charitable work and all the connections that we have? Like in a million years, you never think that you're going to need access to these doctors or hospitals for ourselves. So it really put a whole new light on everything that we've done. And I know everybody gets hit up for lending their name or donating to charity. But my God, when you're the one that's on the receiving end of that, you're so thankful for the time and effort and money that gets put in. So there's that piece of it. But when you're a talent manager, you are not just the business advisor, but there's part big sister, there's part psychologist, there's part how do you help find a nanny if you need to. I mean, we're all in on everything. I'm like, if the nanny didn't show up, bring the baby to the shoot, bring the baby wherever we've got to do it. Like, I've got 4 grandkids. I mean, you and I joke about it. We're like, you, myself, and Shantae Broad is Snoop's wife. I mean, the youngest coolest grandmothers I know. So if I've got to change a diaper, I'm changing a diaper. Like there's no job too big or too small. And I always say, like, whenever you hit a speed bump or, you take a job that you don't like, don't ever look at those things as failures. Look at those as lessons, right? If I didn't start out as an assistant at the NFL 30 something years ago, I wouldn't know what it took to start at the bottom and grow. And I would never ask any of my assistants to do the things that I didn't have to do, right? Like I've been there, I've done it. And that's with anything in any job. And same thing with Strahan or Deion or Erin Andrews, like Tony Gonzalez, like everyone's the same way. Like I remember in I think it was season 2 of Coach Prime's doc, there's a scene where he's pulling up to the hospital for another surgery, and there was a piece of garbage on the ground, and he just picked it up. Like that's who he is. That's who everybody is. Like, and that's what I love about the people we surround ourselves with, not just our clients, but everybody that works at SMAC has the same ethics, the same moral code. And that's more important to me than your degree or where you went to school or what your GPA was. Like, I just want to know at the end of the day, are you a good person? And I think if more people use that as sort of a characteristic in hiring, God, the world would be a much better place.
I couldn't agree more. You are responsible for engineering the careers, the second act, if you will, of the NFL players that you represent, Michael Strahan and Deion Sanders, Tony Gonzalez, which means you have to have vision for them. And not only do you do it one time, you do it multiple times because every season presents a new opportunity. Or, like you run through a season and then maybe you're not the it person anymore, and then you bring them back in. When you're looking at someone and you're deciding how you're going to map out, engineer this pathway for them to have success, what are you taking into account as you're putting the pieces together?
Their interests, their skill set. None of them are the same. They're all different, and that's what's so beautiful. We work with current players for the first time. Some of them have the same position, but they're two totally different people. So it's never cookie cutter for us. When I first meet a potential client, I never go in with a plan, because how could I have a plan without having a conversation and knowing who they are? I've got to get to know them, got to get to know their interests, their likes, what they'd want to do, what they don't want to do. Then I'll come back with a strategy. And that strategy is changing all the time. It might change 6 months into the plan. When Strahan and I started working together, we didn't sit down and say, okay, let's go after a talk show host. It wasn't until he filled in for Regis Philbin that it clicked for me. And I said, you're going to be a talk show host. Like, this is what as he says it, I was like Will Smith in that movie, said, this is what you're going to do. Like, the Yonkers comes out. But same thing with Coach Prime. I'm laughing because I'm trying to say this without sounding like an asshole, but people look at the success we're having right now and are like, oh, that's so easy. Do they know that when he retired, he started the Truth League and started a youth football, baseball, cheerleading, special needs league? That's what he committed his life to. Yes, he was on CBS Sports and then the NFL Network and flying to New York or LA once a week. But other than that, it was all coaching. And then he just grew with the kids. So as they went to middle school, then high school, he started coaching them in high school. So it wasn't until Shador was going away to college, the baby was leaving, the baby bird was flying out of the nest, that he had a plan, which was different than my plan. He said he was going to reach out to his AD at his alma mater and wanted to help them recruit. And I was like, no, you're going to be a head coach at a college. He was like, what? I said, I know that's not the norm, but you're not the norm. Like, you're Deion Sanders, you're prime time. Like, if we get the right team together and we assemble it, we can do this. And I have a motto or a saying, I'm really good at what I know. I'm better at what I don't know. And I go get the people to help me. And that's what we've done. So I might come up with the crazy vision, as they call it, but then we go out and we assemble the best team around us to help bring that to life for any of the clients. When Erin Andrews had this idea that, and this was years ago. I mean, I'm so happy that it's such the norm now that, oh my gosh, women like sports. Oh my gosh, let's make them clothes. Erin had that vision 6 years ago. And that's how Where by Erin Andrews was born. And if I told you how many no's we got, oh my goodness gracious. It was comical. And now, we're just seeing all these like big fashion brands, getting licenses across the board for sports. But this was Erin's vision. And we literally linked arms with Corral Chen and Jose Diaz back then. And we said, we're going to do this. And now we've got a great team. We've got licenses, first with the NFL, then NBA, MLB, NHL, 50 teams in the NCAA. We've got the WNBA now. Like, this all took 6-7 years, and it's a fight every day. So from that perspective, fortunately working at the NFL, I knew a lot about licensing, but didn't know everything. So again, we went to Michael Rubin at Fanatics, who was great. He's like, I get celebrities coming to me all the time. I'm like, you might, but you're not getting Erin Andrews and SMAC, right? So, look at us now. I like to say it's the number one fashion forward female licensed brand out there. And seeing the healthy competition that's come into this space is just truly a testament to Erin's vision and this team that works so hard day in and day out. Lauren Fenner and April Guidon on top of everybody else. Like, we are going to continue to just break barriers and crush it and see what the people need. So like, that's an example. And then when Tony Gonzalez, his kids, like his eldest son, he was playing. So he missed most of Nico's, life living in LA, missing all the practices. So when his two kids were starting to play sports, he's like, I don't want to be traveling, as much on the weekends. I miss their sports. And that was when Amazon secured the rights to Thursday Night Football. He's having the time of his life on that pregame show. Like, they all like each other. You can tell they hang out. They're loving each other. So that was what made sense for him at that time. And now that he's back in Los Angeles, he's, pursuing his dream, which is to be an actor. So everybody's got a different path. And we do, I like to say, a really good job of hearing them and seeing what's right. And we also, look, at the end of the day, they're the bosses and they are going to have the final say. But let me tell you something. We are the first to be extremely vocal about what we believe is the right or the wrong way to go about, doing something. And if they choose to go in a direction that we didn't agree with, we're going to be right there making sure that they're going to be the best at whatever that is. And if it doesn't work, then we'll pivot really fast. So it's a 24/7 life. I don't know any other way. My husband tells me that I kiss my iPhone good morning and good night, but I also tell him that iPhone is what gets him to the World Series next week. And that iPhone, got us a suite to take all the grandkids to see the New York Rangers play at Christmas. So, yes, there's sacrifices, but I can't imagine it any other way.
Mm-hmm. So now you have shared story after story regarding your the clientele base. And I know that you do way more than just manage clients, as an executive producer and the different work that you all do on that side of the industry. And at the top of our conversation, you talked about this road that you're on for yourself personally. So while all that stuff is great, in this new season of Eff-It 50 for you, what are you doing to put that same effort behind Constance to achieve what you desire for yourself personally?
Well, you busted me. I'm not doing enough.
I'm like, when is she doing it? I don't know.
There's little things. So whether it's Pilates, I do it at 6:30 in the morning. So that's like my time. We have an infrared sauna. That's where I go in without the phone. From an email perspective, I might go in just to play solitaire or something, or just listen to a podcast, but that's my time for myself. When we're in LA, we live by the beach. So I really just don't swim in that ocean. It's a little cold for me, but I like to just hear it and see it. It just brings me a sense of peace. And I think we're all still trying to find balance coming out of the pandemic. I used to take at least 3 to 4 trips a year. And unfortunately, I've not been able to do that. So I told my husband next year, we're going back to that. So we're already starting to plot out a Hawaii trip, a Turks and Caicos trip, Mexico. I just love going there. And then Europe, we're trying to get back to that. So those are the things that I'm focused on. Is I thrive when I'm around water. Even though I'm in Boulder all the time, I have found some really peace in those Flatiron Mountains and the beauty of Colorado. So we'd love to do hikes. Not crazy hikes because I'm petrified of bugs and wildlife, but my version of a hike where I can still see the street. But, it's just enough to just get out of the computer and the emails and that, and just really, I think too, and I'm sure you can relate to what I'm about to say, I want to just be with my girlfriends more, right? Like those are my dogs. Like, and everybody got busy with life. Nothing, thank God, major, but people having kids late in life. So, they're in it with what's the next high school, what's the college. So we just all haven't found time for ourselves, but I really just want to do more of my girl trips and just be with my crew. Sorry, my dog wants to make an appearance on this. This is my piece right here, though. He's just been curled up on my lap. So he started staring a little bit. I'm sorry.
We have three dogs. We have three dogs, and one of them, his name is Bubba. And when Troy comes home from New York, Bubba is like under him, on him, sleeps on his head. And so we're like, oh, he knows. He is definitely your emotional support dog. Like,
Yeah. Biggie has been to about a half a dozen Colorado games. He's going this weekend. If he could get frequent flyer miles, he would be at the highest status. Like he's the best for both of us. But Mike is 6'4", and this is his dog. He's just not here this week. Otherwise, Biggie would be with him. So same thing as Bubba. Biggie and Bubba need a hang. They need a podcast.
So this is our last question before we go into our next segment.
Okay.
When it's all said and done, and when I say all said and done, you're still alive.
Okay.
And you're looking back over what you've accomplished. What do you want the legacy of all of your work to be?
The change that we've set out to make, I want that to have been cemented. And whether it's the docuseries that we just did about the evolution of the Black quarterback, which I told Anthony Smith, who directed that, and this was his vision with Michael Vick and Kiafa Vick, like someone put that into the history books now. And for me to have played such a tiny part in it, like it's mind blowing. So there's that body of work in that sense, whether it's what you put on the screen, but for all the young women that come behind us to not have to have the same doors closed in their faces or not to be on the lists, get rid of these damn lists. Like that's what I just truly want my legacy to be, is find your peace in your 20s. Don't wait for it to be in your 50s when you've made sacrifices. I didn't have, my own family. But whenever I say that I didn't have kids, not my step or bonus kids that get upset, it's the kids that work with me at SMAC, or it's the kids that I've mentored along the way. They always say, like, where are your legacy? And I get teared up thinking about it, like, because I don't think about the impact that I have on people's lives that come after us. But that's something that's just not even something I set out to do. Like, I mean, I think I drive Jack crazy, my assistant, because it's always like I tell him, Jack, my calendar's too busy. But then I'm like, oh, but find time so I can talk to this student that I just met, or find time to talk to this young person, because we didn't have that. We didn't have mentors growing up. And I'm not saying it in a bad way. It just wasn't a thing, right? Like it just was, put your head down, bust your ass, and work hard. And that's what it was. Like I sort of joke about it, but I'm sure there'd be some sort of like quote unquote abuse in our 20s. Like we didn't get overtime. He didn't have a voice. Like, but you know what? I wouldn't change it, because it made me who I am today. And it's made me a better person for the people that we represent or the content that we create. And it's also helped me realize how important it is to give back, not because you have to, but it's just because it's in me. So I don't know if I actually answered the question, but maybe it was a lot of answers to that question. So
yes, and so I lied. One more question, because you just made me think about something. You've done a lot of amazing things for people, for entertainment. Do you take time just to step back and look at what you've done?
No, and no. Maverick Carter told me this one day. He said, celebrate every win. And I was like, he's right.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell my team that. I'm like, we got to celebrate the wins. But we're always like, oh my gosh, we're on to the next thing. And it doesn't mean we don't appreciate it, but I don't know how. I would like to learn. And I tell other people to do that. We have a weekly staff meeting and we do take that time to shout everybody out on all the great things we've done. I'm better at celebrating my team's wins. So there are these certain weeks that something happens where it's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we had this show premiere, where sales were up, Strahan did this, like Tony Gonzalez did that, Wiz Khalifa did that. Like you just are like, oh my gosh. So I'll send a note out to the team and say, hey, everybody take a minute and reflect. So hopefully I'm teaching the younger next generations to do a better job of it, but I don't at all. Maybe when I'm in Hawaii and on the beach and I'm taking my walk, I might for a second, but I guess maybe it's just how we were raised, right? It's like, gotta go, gotta keep going. So it's the battery in the back. I don't know when I will, but if I do, I'll text you.
I have this something that I have put in place for myself, especially when I'm doing an event. I go to the farthest point in the back of the room while everything is happening, and I just stop and I look and I just take it all in, even if it's for 1 minute, just so I can experience the moment. Because, when you're in it, you're not experiencing anything. You're not even aware of, what everybody is feeling in the room. You're just in it and you're grinding. Like you said, the battery is in the back. And I've just put that practice in place for myself because I work really hard. And sometimes I don't feel like I'm doing enough or I'm not being successful. And so I lose the opportunity to say, wait a minute, that's a lie. Look at this right here. And so I put that in place for myself so I can make sure I have that visual snapshot and I experience the feeling of the space so I can carry it forward as encouragement as I'm still like, okay, I'm figuring it out. I'm getting it done. So it's just something I've done for myself.
I like that. I'm going to try it. It's funny. I always give brides that advice because I did it right before I walked down the aisle. I stopped and I looked around and I just received all the love because I was like, probably won't ever be in a room like this again where everyone is here for me, and just you could feel that strength and that love. And I always tell a bride to do that before they walk down the aisle. And they always tell me, oh my God, I'm so glad you did that. So I'm going to take you up on your advice because it's just, even if it's 30 seconds, just take 5 deep breaths and look around and receive that and just know that you played a part in it. So thank you.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Good at this, Tommi.
So our next segment is I am bringing her to the table with me. And this is your opportunity to give another woman her virtual flowers because you would not be where you are today without her fingerprint on your life.
Oh. Well, my mom, obviously, but she knows that. So I'm going to give my flowers to my first boss at the NFL, Maureen Rosen, because she gave me my start. She gave me a sense of confidence that I didn't realize at the time. It wasn't until later on. And we only worked together for a short time because she had been kicking butt at the NFL and then had a baby later in life. So she, kind of semi-retired. I want to say 3 or 4 years into my career, but it's probably a similar sort of science that, a baby's first few years of their lives are the most important because that's when, everything's being taught and ingrained and they might not realize it. And it's probably the same thing with Maureen. I didn't know how much she was teaching me at that time for sorry, the dog's about to bark. Biggie, don't make an appearance in this. She really, I just credit everything to her. And she yells at me when I shout her out and give her flowers, because she's like, you were a star and I knew it back then, but she gave me my shot, and I'm forever, forever grateful to her for it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so moving right along into our final segment, which is food is love. And I'm going to ask you some food questions. You know, this subject matter is near and dear to my heart because not only do I love to eat food, but I enjoy preparing food for other people. So the first question is, what food best describes your personality and why?
Oh my gosh. Probably spicy food. I'm a jalapeno.
Name a time in your life when food was healing for you.
It's always healing for me. I always love to say, like, when people, like, I had those friends that when they're going through a traumatic or stressful time, they get really skinny. I'm the opposite. Like, food is my comfort. You know, I could sit down and eat that pint of ice cream, or they really make fun of me at the Colorado games when they're close games. I go running down to Tracy Knight, coach's sister, who works with him too. She's got a candy drawer, and I'm just like, that hand is in it, and I'm just like, I need the sugar to just sort of calm me down, which isn't great. I know that, but yeah, it's just always been. Pizza, you know, it's like if I'm having a rough day and I say to the team, let's get pizza for lunch, they know something's up. They're like, get her pizza, back off. Because I'm usually a salad or avocado toast. But once that pizza or burger for lunch, like, watch out.
I get pizza for a good day. That's like, ooh, I had a really good day. Let me order a pizza.
Love that.
Does your family have an heirloom recipe that is passed down from generation to generation?
Oh, my mom, for sure. Greek Easter is her jam. She'll still cook for us. So hers would be the lamb. If you ever saw my big fat Greek wedding and the guy's like, I don't eat meat. She says, no worry, I make you lamb. Like, that's very true. She still makes for me. Mom, I need some spanakopita. She'll make it and freeze it. I don't cook. I never cooked. But my husband's the cook in the family. But for my mom, it's definitely the spanakopita, the lamb, and then she makes the best Greek desserts. So that would be the family tradition. My husband comes from a huge Italian family, so chicken parm and spaghetti and meatballs and orangeine, like that would be their side for sure. So I get the benefits because he cooks and I eat. I clean and entertain.
So now we're going to do a quick segment of this or that, and this is a sports movie edition. So it's going to be some movies along with snacks that you would eat at the movies when you're watching these sports themes. Okay. So the first one is Rocky or Creed?
Rocky.
Field of Dreams or The Blind Side?
The Blind Side.
Miracle on Ice or Hoosiers?
Miracle on Ice.
Remember the Titans or Coach Carter?
Coach Carter.
Pizza or wings?
Pizza.
Popcorn or popcorn or nachos?
Oh, nachos are messy, so at the movies I got to go with popcorn. I'm a slob.
Okay.
Like, I'll end up wearing them in the dark. Forget it. I'll just walk out with the cheese, although I love nachos.
Icy or soda?
Oh, I'm icy all the way. I still I'm such a kid. I go to the movie theater, get me my blue icy.
I love it. Well, that is it. And that concludes our conversation, but it definitely does not conclude your opportunity to come to the table, because you are welcome anytime. Where can people find all of the amazing projects and work that you are doing at SMAC?
Our website is smac-ent.com. I'm looking at Jack because I'm like, I'm going to mess that up. And then we are on all the socials, you know, with at SMAC Entertainment. Yeah, those would be it. And then we've got clients are on all the streamers and all the networks, and our fortunately our shows are across the board at all the networks and streamers. So it's been a fun ride. I'm going to take a minute right now and be like, holy cow, like, she's right. I got to take a second and really think about these things. But the fact that everyone's talking how hard it is, and it is really hard to sell a show in this environment, but the fact that we are dropping one a month right now just really is a testament to the team. I might be the one talking to you, but my gosh, there is a team of people that we couldn't do this without them. So we are very, very fortunate in the group that has come together here. We're tiny, but we're mighty.
I love it. I love it. And I thank you so much, Constance, for coming to the table today to stay a while with me. And like I said, you are welcome anytime.
Thank you, Tommy. You've made my day. I'm going to eat pizza and be happy today.
Thank you. I hope you felt the love and connection in today's conversation. Every woman you heard from has faced the impossible and emerged stronger. This is your personal invitation to stay a while longer at TommiV.com. That's TOMMIV.com for more inspiration for your mind, body, and soul. And let's not forget your belly. You're always welcome at my table. Please be sure to subscribe, make yourself at home, and stay a while.